Hello, my name is John Rice, and what I want to talk to you about is value stream mapping, give you a little bit of introduction about it. Um, I've been involved in lean and continuous improvement environments, quality for the past 20 years. Started out at Walker Systems, which was a division of wire mold. They're discussed in the book Lean Thinking. We actually, when I started at Walker Systems, they were pretty well advanced in their lean and continuous improvement journey to the point where they were doing chukka lines. A lot of the batch processes had been converted into one-piece flow operations. And so there were a number of cells where we had actually built the cells on our own, built them based on one-piece flow. And our whole goal was to had a chukka line where the operator would load the part, start the machine would process the part. The previous part had been ejected after it was done by that machine, and so it was unloaded automatically. So the operator was just loading, starting the machine, picking up the part that had been unloaded from the previous machining operation, and then continuing on down. So what we're gonna go ahead and get into the presentation now. That was a little bit of a background about myself. So what we're looking at doing with value stream mapping is improving our material and information flows so that value is added and waste is eliminated. Okay, if we look at the definition of value stream mapping, it's the review of a process visually from the beginning of a customer request to the fulfillment of that customer request to improve the material and information flow so that value is added to the customer and waste is eliminated. Okay? So what we're going to look at here now is we're going to talk about what our goal is. So our goal is to identify our before current batch process state and understand its information and material flow. Okay? So as we look at that and we look at this value stream map, that's the current state that we mapped out. Up on the upper part is our information flow. That's what typically gets happen when we create a value stream map. It shows our production scheduling, how it's interfacing with the vendor, as far as forecasting, the sort of interaction. In this case, it's a weekly automated email. And then it's going back and forth with the customer, a 30 and 90-day forecast with daily orders, and then the individual cells getting scheduled on a daily basis. But you can see in this operation down below, we got our material flow here. So we're taking into consideration our cycle time, our changeover, our uptime, how many shifts we're scheduling, everything. And then we're looking at each of the individual operations. So we got 4 operations here to make this part. So it's going to a flange department where they're drilling, really a drilling department, a tapping department. The flange is then going to a buffing department, then it's going to an assembly department. And so, what's happening is we got all this inventory in each of these operations in front of them before we process. And because of that, our lead time, you can't see it here in the bottom right, but it's a total of 22.5 days. But when you look at the actual cycle time, here it's 10 seconds, 12 seconds in the tapping operation, the buffing operations, 15 seconds. Cycle time in the assembly is 200. So 237 seconds total of value added time. But yet it takes us 22.5 days of business days, really a month to make that part. Okay. So what we do in a value stream mapping is we look at our material information flow so that we can transform it into a one-piece flow state and reduce our lead time. Okay, so you can see in this we've changed it quite a bit, and what we've done is we've combined all of those operations we were talking about so that you do the drilling, then you take the part, you do the tapping, then you come down to do the buffing, and then you do your assembly operation all in one cell. Okay, and we'll do the changeovers all one at a time, and then we would take that piece and take it from beginning to end. Okay, once we take that part from beginning to end, the part's completed, and we box it and it's ready for shipment. So, in this case, we've got 100 or 1,000 pieces sitting here as far as inventory, which is 4 days worth of material if our daily demand was 250 parts a day. You can see here we've got material ready to be shipped to the customer outside of the flange assembly area, ready to be, that has been completed. So our total amount of inventory on hand is 5 days. So if we've taken it from 22.5 days down to 5 days, same amount of cycle time in this instance, but we have opportunities of level loading the cell, setting up supermarkets, doing changeover, and different things. So you can see, with value stream mapping and by looking at our material flow and information flow, we can have a lot of impact on our operations, positive impact. Okay. So the history of value stream mapping, it originated at Toyota, but it was termed material and information flow mapping as a way of looking at the current state and then developing a future or ideal state. So it became known as value stream mapping in 1998 with the introduction of the book Learning to See by Mike Rother and John Shuck. So the steps in the value stream mapping process, what we're doing is we're looking at our current state and we're looking at the material and information flow in the current state. And then from that, what we do is we identify opportunities to improve material and information flow while reducing waste. And that allows us to develop a picture of our future state operation. So the benefits of value stream mapping is it allows us to view the value stream on a process to help show ways to increase value to the customer while identifying bottlenecks and waste within the process. And by identifying these wastes in our current state and developing what our future state will be, it'll help us generate tactical projects, Kaizen projects for our organization that will optimize the overall process. So the scope of the value stream mapping is, we can look at it two ways. We can look at it within our plant walls, reviewing the process from the beginning when material is received within our facility until it's shipped out our doors, from the time it hits the dock and receiving until it goes out and shipping. We can look at that process. We can also look and review the process from when an order is received until cash is collected from the customer to help understand our lead time and how it affects the cash flow. Best example, real quick, let's say we've got we're making a part, we get the order, we receive our raw material in, let's say we got 30-day terms for whatever reason with them. Now remember, in our example before, in the current state, it takes us a whole month to once we get an order to make it, right? Let's say our terms with our customer are 60 days. So now what happens is, because it takes us a month, we've got 2 months from once it ships that we can invoice, and we're going to receive the cash from our customer, and then we turn our for our vendor, we pay them, and within 30 days we got a 2-month gap there. So now we've got to have enough cash on hand and manage our cash flow with that two-month gap. Now imagine if we shorten that from 22.5 days to 5 days, we're reducing that amount of gap on the cash flow quite a bit. Okay, so that's what value stream mapping does for us, and that's why sometimes it's good to look not just within the walls but from the whole process. So what is value stream mapping? It's a strategic tool versus a tactical business tool like process mapping. It reviews a customer request all the way through a plant, from the start of a customer request until it's fulfilled. And it's a high-level view of the way a request flows through a plant or a company. So where does value stream mapping apply? So anywhere where a customer has processes, where a customer requests something until the order is fulfilled, is where it would apply. So examples would be manufacturing order for physical product, providing services for a customer. More and more every day we're a service-oriented industry in a lot of cases, or society. So services is a really big thing. Patient waiting in an emergency room from the time a customer or a patient logs in until they're seen, that's what we're looking at. And then providing customer orders and providing them quotes. If you think about that in terms of if you've got a customer that's waiting on a quote, you and your competitor, price is really the same, and the customer knows it. If your competitor can get the quote to them in a day and it takes you 5 days, who do you think they're going to do business with? So it's really important to look at it from that point of view. Processing claims, if we can reduce the lead time on claims, it can help too in that instance. So how do you know what the value stream map in a manufacturing process? You review the processes in your organization, right? So you look at your major product families, determine what percentage of the volume they are, and I'd focus on the major product families. But as you do this, you may want to look at scrap rates. You may have a particular product line where the scrap is really high. You may want to look at it in terms of first time yield, right? You may want to look at your lead times. If you've got a process where lead times are really, really high, that's a good candidate. Cost as a percentage of sales dollars. If you need to get cost out of the process, look at the whole value stream, and you may start getting into, well, maybe we need to redesign the process. And then look at complaints received from customers on service as well. So those are all things that we'll want to look at. I'll go down through here. Value stream mapping process steps. We want to identify our project. It's really important, based on the criteria we talked about before. We'll want to determine our project, pick something that's fairly high volume, or maybe it's the margin, or maybe it's the lead time. And then we want to determine, what are our goals? What do we want to achieve? But once we do that, we want to gain top management commitment. We want to, remember when we talked about this value stream, remember we were talking about a drilling, a tapping, a buffing department. And so you're going to have all these people, you're going to have a lot of internal politics, you're going to have a lot of people that are going to be resistant to change. And you may be a good facilitator, you may be a really good persuader, but the more you have top management commitment, the easier it is for you to drive the organizational change that you need to do to realize your objectives. And then once you do that, you're going to create your team based on your goals. And creating the team will depend. You may have a value stream mapping event where it's more focused on, you may need IT, you may need customer service personnel based on the value stream mapping event. You may need tool and die or maintenance personnel if you're looking at improving your value stream through your manufacturing processes. The next step is gather initial information. You want to make sure that everybody has a good baseline. You don't want to basically say this is the way we're going to do the project, but you want to provide enough information that they have good current state information, kind of understand what the challenges are, and then when they go out on the floor and they look and they go see, they're going to see what those issues are. And then we're going to want to begin our event and review our charter. We'll sit down, we'll meet, we'll review our charter, and then we'll show everybody how to do their initial value stream map, show them the principles of value stream mapping. And that goes into our next part, which is going and seeing and creating our current state map. By going out, we look to see what the issues are, we create our current value stream map. Okay, and then once we do that, we're going to brainstorm, how can we go to create our future state? But, we'll probably go back at some point and look at the processes again and say, okay, we think we saw this, we don't remember, we think we saw this, let's go back, check, we're going to do all that, we're going to map our future state now, and then we're going to create our Kaizen action plan, and we're going to make our future state a reality. And then after that, we're going to review our progress and we're going to follow up. This is the last step, is probably the most important step, because what you don't want to do is create a value stream, create a future state map, and then just have it sitting on a wall collecting dust. You want to make significant change in your organization. So, meeting weekly afterwards, meeting monthly, a couple months after, a couple times for the next couple months, 2 to 3 months, and make sure we're progressing, make sure the assignments are getting done, contacting the appropriate personnel if you need to keep progress driven. It's really, really important. Okay, so our end goal for value stream mapping. Remember, our end goal is to identify our material and information flow and to determine what our ideal nirvana state is, and use that image to define our future state. So it's easy to get caught in the way we always do things and the way we've always done things in the past, and to say these are the limitations. I know what the limitations in all our processes are. If you really want to make really huge, massive action improvement changes, what you got to be able to do is look and say, okay, if I was going to design this process from the beginning, how would I do it? What would my ideal material flow be? What would our ideal information flow be? And then what you got to do is say, how do I drive towards that end state? Okay. So the better we define our ideal state and the more we drive towards it and the closer we get, the more we take our future state closer to our ideal or nirvana state. Okay. Really, really important. So you gotta, open your eyes, take away all the blinders of what you have because of your typical environment in order to impact change. Okay, so pitfalls we want to avoid. Too broad an overview, being value stream map. Another one's not having people involved from each of the processes. You're talking about changing all the steps throughout an organization. We talked about creating a lean, one-piece flow cell. So there's going to be some internal politics, but you've got, and we'll talk, that's our last step, making sure we have the appropriate level of commitment. But you got to make sure everybody's involved. That way you're going to get more buy-in. Get the operators involved and help understand what the challenges are in the trenches and see what sort of issues they're having. And those are some of the things that you resolve those sorts of changes and problems they've been having, it's going to be a lot easier to get buy-in. One of the other pitfalls is not collecting enough data up front. You want to make sure you got good data for the thing so that you make sure you're for the value stream mapping event, so that you're, number one, making sure you're value streaming the correct process, but that you are providing the right justification to help everybody understand what the impact is going to be. And then the last one, we talked about this, that's really not having the appropriate level of commitment up front. If you don't have the appropriate level of commitment up front, where you have somebody that's going to say, we are doing this is the direction we're going in, it's going to be an uphill battle, and you can lose the momentum you have by not having that level of commitment. Okay, so reference materials. We're pretty much almost done here. Reference materials, Learning to See, Mike Rother and John Shook, great book. One of the first books I had in my Lean and Continuous Improvement library. I just thought it was that important. Another great resource is Value Stream Mapping by Karen Martin and Mike Osterly. I do know they have that one on Audible. I don't know about the Learning to See, but the Learning to See just has so many pictures and examples. You really got to buy that one. You can also purchase our online value stream mapping course at ceu.neoview.us. It is in an Audible format. It's described and narrated the whole way through. Cost is $14.99 if purchased by August 23rd. Use the code NVS-VSM22, all capital letters. So I want to thank you for your time. One last thing we're going to discuss in our slide here, Pack, is we do now have a YouTube channel. In YouTube, do the search John Rice Lean Sensei. Subscribe if you feel it adds value. And then you can also visit our website, CEU, NUView.us. We do have resources, free resources you can download, and you can also sign up for our email list. Okay, so I want to thank you for taking the time to watch it, and appreciate it.